at blood and blood cells. I'll take you through the components of things that make up blood. We'll have a look at them individually and have a look at how they look and what their functions are. Okay. So first of all, what is blood made of? Well, blood is a tube. If you think of the definite tissue group of cells which do a particular job, then blood matches that description, so that makes it a tissue. And it's made up of 4 main components. There are 4 main parts of blood. The things that are in it are red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and plasma. And we'll look at those individually in a moment. And how much blood do you have? How much blood does the average person have? Well, the average person has between 4.7 and 5 blood. Obviously, if you're 4'10", you've got less blood than somebody who is 6'9", but there's just a bit of an answer to give you. I don't know if that's more than you thought or less than you thought, but that's blood the average has. All right, so I think individually about the different parts of blood. This is a diagrammatic representation of the different parts of blood. This is a blood vessel here. I'm just cut through it a section, and if you imagine this is blood flowing out, blood vessel, we've got the different parts, the different components of the blood here. I'm going to this one first. These are the red blood cells. Okay, so red blood cells, dead easy. One specific job. All they do is carry oxygen. Okay, dead easy. Now they have a number of features that allow them to do that job really, really well. So, for example, their shape. Imagine like a pound coin, and you squeezed it between your fingers. You pressed it in on both sides. That's kind of the shape of a red blood cell. It's called a biconcave disc. And the reason it has that shape is it means for the amount of volume that it's got. So, if you imagine the amount that's inside of the red blood cell, there's a lot of surface area on the outside. That allows diffusion to happen really, really quickly. So the oxygen can get up on the red blood cell, off the red blood cell, really quickly. Okay. The other thing, one of the other features that they've got is they are the only cells in the body which don't have a nucleus. They are enucleate. It means they're more space basically to be able to carry oxygen because none of the space being taken up by the nucleus. And yeah, they're made of hemoglobin. Now, hemoglobin, the name, as it suggests, heme with heme in the name, with iron. And if you think of Mars, for example, what colour is Mars? Well, Mars is the red planet. Actually, because that's got a lot of iron in its rocks there as well. Hemoglobin, similar, it's got iron in it. That's where red blood cells red. That's what gives the blood its colour. Okay, so the next component, these irregularly shaped, sort of bluish, white coloured things here, they're the white blood cells. Now, they don't have as regular a shape. They can kind of more globular. They take different shapes and change shapes at different times. Now, they're involved in the immune response. So if you've got pathogen in your blood, so harmful microbes that shouldn't be there, and one of the jobs of the white blood cells is to attack them and to actually engulf them and eat them. It's called phagocytosis. They will swallow any pathogens that they find in the blood and they'll digest them. There are different types of white blood cells that do different jobs. So some make antibodies, some are involved in making toxins and stuff like that. But they all are involved in the immune response and helping to protect us against disease. Okay. And then the other thing which we've got are platelets. Now these are small fragments of cells which come which are broken off in the bone marrow. The bone marrow, which is kind of the inner part of the large bone, if you think your femur, your thigh bone, or your pelvis. The inside of the bone is a spongy-like material. That's where blood are made. Okay? Now, most of the time they're made into full cells. They're white blood cells, red blood cells, etc. But sometimes they're just made into small little pieces of cell, and those are called platelets. You might think, why do you want pieces of cell around blood? Well, they are really important because they're involved in the clotting process. Okay, so if you get a cut or a bruise or a nick in one of your blood vessels, and don't forget some of them are really small, really, really delicate. If you have some way of filling up that cut, then blood would just flow out of it. So have some way to stop that bleeding, and that's where platelets come in. Platelets involved in blood clotting. Now, the guide amongst noticed that I said there were 4 main components of blood. I've only spoken about 3 there. You can see it is the plasma. Okay, so all of these things, the white blood cells, red blood cells, and platelets, are being carried in a lid. That liquid is called plasma. Okay, now its job is to carry things other than the oxygen. So oxygen is being carried on the red blood cells, but anything else that's transported in our blood is carried in the plasma. So that might be carbon dioxide, that might be hormones, that might be drugs, that could be antibodies, a number of things. If it is oxygen, it's being carried in the plasma. Okay? Plasma is like a watery liquid. I'll show you in a second. So that was a diagrammatic representation on the previous slide. This is actual micrographs, so a photo of what someone sees when they look down a microscope of a drop of blood. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is to give you an idea of the relative numbers of these different components that there are. So you can see lots and lots of these fairly regularly shaped, they are actually quite red coloured on here, cells. These are blood cells. You can see they're by far and away, that's what there are most of in the blood, red blood cells. Okay, and then these two things are called segmented neutrophils. They're a type of white blood cell. There are just two of them on here, as compared to a couple of hundred red blood cells. And you can see sort of slightly more darker dots here that have been stained. Those are the platelets. So that gives you an idea of the relative amounts of each of the blood components that there are in real life. Okay. What I'm going to do now, I'll show you these red blood cells. A bit less to see if you've been listening to what I'm saying. I'm going to show you the blood components. They're down on the left here. And there are functions down on the right here. What I want you to do is pause the video now and see if you can match up the correct blood component to its function. Okay, so if you just pause the video now, have a go at matching those up. Okay, check you got them right. So the red blood, like I told you, carries oxygen on the beat. The white blood cells engulfs invading pathogens involved in the immune response. Platelets, blood clotting, and plasma carries all the blood components and something mentioned, so carbon dioxide and waste products like urea, etc. All right, so I asked this question a lot: does blood change colour? And it often comes from the same reason. Look at their veins in their arms and say, oh, they look blue, or they look green, or they look purple. And so I've had numerous students down the years say, yeah, that's because their blood is green when it's in your veins, isn't it? And the answer is no, blood is never green or blue. In fact, it's only ever red. However, it can be different shades of red. So blood is red, but each of these bins here contains blood. You see quite clearly that blood is not the same shade as that blood. They're both red, but much darker, and this one is much lighter. Okay, so blood can change shade. I'm going to ask you just to pause for 10 seconds again now and see if you can think of a reason why blood might change shade. Okay. Okay, the reason blood does change shade is dependent on whether or not it's got oxygen in it. So if you think of some blood that's just been to the lungs to take up oxygen, and it's on its way around the body to be dropped off at the cells, that will be a nice light cherry red colour down here. But then it's been to muscles or wherever it's dropped off its oxygen, your blood's then not got oxygen in it. Well, then it's much a darker red, like deoxygenated blood. So that's why blood changes shade. All right, so one thing we can investigate components of blood and what's in it is using a machine called a centrifuge. You put blood in a test tube, you load your test into like a ring which spins around very fast. The heaviest things get put out by centrifugal force. The bottom of the test tube and the things that are lighter stay towards the top of the test tube. There goes a diagram of it happening there. And if you do that, this is what happens. You actually see that plasma, the liquid part of the blood, gets at the top, red blood cells at the bottom, and where the two things meet, you've got a mixture of white cells and platelets. Now, what matters? Look at the colour of plasma. If we have red blood cells in our blood, ours would be the colour of that apple juice coloured. Okay, and you can see how dark blood cells down here. I see they've all collected at the bottom, and where they meet, we've got a mixed white blood cells there, and there's some platelets in there as well. But if we did that, that would let us really have a good look at some components of blood, be able to see them ourselves. All right. Once again, I'm going to pause it here, but I'll check for you. 3 questions. Try the answer or think the answer. Is blood always red? What component makes it red? And if we remove that component, what colour would a blood be? Pause it now, have a little go at those. Okay, is it always red? The answer is yes, it's different shades of red, but it is always red. What component of blood makes it red? It's the red blood cells. And if we remove that component, what colour would it be? Well, as we saw on the previous slide, if you remove the red blood cells, you're left with a yellowy liquid. So that's what colour it would be. All right, so just a little word on platelets then and their job to form clots. So without ever cut or wound, the blood will clot. And I'm sure we've all seen clots. And if they happen externally in the body, that clot will dry and form a scab. Okay, so it's the same thing, okay, caused by platelets. And the job of it is blood leaking out, basically, to stop too much loss of blood. Also to form a barrier to just things that could cause infection getting into and causing us to get an infection. But the way it works, the platelets kind of clump together. When they sense there's a cut, they release chemicals to tell platelets to clump to one another, and they make a mixture of platelet and fibers, which you see here. This is a photo taken from an electron microscope, and that sort of mushy platelet fiber mixture will form a clot, and if that dries out, will form a scab. Okay, that's how blood clots using platelets. Okay, summarise them. Blood's got four main components. Plasma, straw-coloured liquid, carries everything apart from oxygen, so that's carbon dioxide, hormones, products like urea, anything that's in the blood, it will be dissolved in the plasma, and so it gets transported. Red blood cells, also known as erythrocytes, made of globin, that carries oxygen. They've got that biconcave disc shape and no nucleus. Both of those things allow for carrying more oxygen. And then we've got the white blood cells. There are different types, but they're all involved in fighting against infection, form immunity. And finally, we've got platelets, which are cell fragments, which are clotting, form clots, and form scabs. Okay, hope we got that all in. Thank you very much.